And welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. This is Jamie Gray. This pod, we welcome Mackenzie Thomas. Mackenzie is from Alberta, where she represented them on the U19, U23 squad, also their senior women's. She also played for Wolfpack in Durham County. Currently, she's playing for the Darlington Mowden Park Sharks of the Allianz Premier's 15 over in Europe, where she made her debut back in 2012. Along with playing top-tier rugby over in England, she also worked for Sky High Sports, and Mackenzie is your hookup for setting up rugby tours. Before we get into it, we always have to give that little plug about ourselves, how you can contact us, how you can share these great pods of Canadian athletes, and it's through a variety of social media platforms is where you can look. We're on the Twitter at Canadian Ruck. We're also on Instagram at _Canadian_Ruck. We're on the Facebook at the Canadian Ruck, and our email is at canadianruck@gmail.com. So make sure that you're following us, you're subscribing, and you're watching what we're doing, and you're sharing those good words of rugby. And if you want to hear us, we're on the Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, and Castbox, and you can watch the interviews on YouTube. And if you're concerned, you're forgetful like me, and you're wondering where to go, just check out our website at thecanadianruck.weebly.com. There's links there. There's some photos there. There's our swag page is there if you want to order some. We've got a few toques left, as you can see. If you're on YouTube, that's what I'm wearing right now. But the most important thing is that when you're hearing these stories, that you're sharing them, you're retweeting them, you're sending them some friends so that they can hear them as well, because Canadian rugby athletes, Canadian rugby players in general, we don't get a lot of recognition over here. So it's a great way for that recognition of what these great athletes and people can do. And it'd be great if we can keep spreading the word. So as I said, yeah, we've got a few toques left. I heard there's an order of 30, and I think I might have 6 left. So they're $25 a pop plus shipping. And just take a look at the YouTube and see how great these toques are. But great for Canadian winners, great for European winners. So put an order in, and we'll get one shipped off to you. In rugby news, this is interesting. We kind of local / international flavor. Canterbury over New Zealand. Canterbury's Farrah Palmer Cup. The final hero was Canadian Cindy Nels. Cindy has 19 caps with Canada. She was also a member of the 2017 Rugby World Cup squad. At this point, I'm sure you've heard, but I wanted to share it anyway because it's a really great story. Nels, who made it to Canterbury after some struggles to crack the roster, scored the game-winning try in the cup finale versus Waikato. So it was an 8-7 win. She scored in extra time, and it was amazing to see just the pure elation on their team. So if you're on YouTube, I want you to take a watch. If you're listening, I just want you to listen to the excitement that happens here. So take a watch, take a listen.
This time, Ponsonby is turned in the tackle. Namas, has she got the ball over? Yes, she has! Oh my goodness me! Oh, it's heartbreak for Waikato, is it? And the game is over. The bench from the Canterbury team has run on to the...
It was a great feeling watching that, watching Cindy Power over for that winning try. That was awesome. Also on the international side, this is Saturday morning, so the 4th, technically, Bledisloe Cup, or the Tri Nations has started. But if you watched last weekend, the All Blacks retained that Bledisloe. Great match, 43-5. A few years though, those Aussies, man, they're gonna be a good squad. A lot of young talent. Made some clear mistakes throughout the match, but it's one of those things that they're going to learn with time, especially when you've got, I think they had 3 starting rookies on their back line. So they had a lot of good skill there for sure. It's just going to take some time for them to kind of come together. Everybody knows at this point England won 6 Nations. Congrats to Alan Jones becoming the most capped international at 149. Wales did struggle though against Scotland, and Scotland did look fairly well. England won the 6 Nations, but for me, I guess does anybody remember Chris Atkinson? Anybody? He was the poor kid that Owen Farrell rendered unconscious. The poor kid still isn't able to play, and here's Farrell just winning the 6 Nations. Just to me, it just doesn't seem right after what happened. I've read stories that Farrell is taking tackling practice. Here's supposedly one of the top fly halves or top players in the world. At his age, level, and skill, learning how to tackle properly shouldn't be something that he has to do. I feel for Chris Atkinson still, because here's this 19-year-old kid and he's still not playing, and the guy that put him out is hoisting the Six Nations with his mates in England. So I feel bad for that kid. I think Farrell got off way too easy. I still believe that. And hopefully these tackling sessions he's taking helps, because he is a good player. But in my mind, he is one of the most dangerous tacklers on the pitch every game he's on there. On the local side, and this is very local, here in New Brunswick, knock on wood, we've been doing okay with the COVID. We've had a few outbreaks here and there, but a lot of sports have been able to be been played with proper restrictions. And my old senior club is one of those ones. So I had posted a gray area quite a long time ago. Should I kick the dust off the boots and play? And I'm 44, and I'm playing again now. It's just touch rugby. Thankfully, I don't know if I could handle contact as much as I think I could, do that. But my wife was, insistent, like, go out and have some fun. So my old senior club, the Blau Rovers, it's been awesome for me to reconnect. We get upwards of 20 to 30 guys on a Thursday night for training, which has been great. With the time change and darkness setting in, it's been difficult the last couple of weeks, so it's been kind of put on hold. But today, Saturday, November 7th, I believe it is our last day. We're having our official end of year soiree. Now, it's just sevens, which I've never really played before. And for somebody that's 44 and hasn't played rugby in 17 years, that is a lot of running, but it has been a tremendous amount of fun. Some other clubs around the province have been hosting little sevens contact tournaments. I believe they've been contact. Fredericton has, Moncton has, I think St. John has. We haven't taken part in any of that. We've been kind of doing our own thing as our coach, Grant Beckingham, has been just trying to re-spark our club and being interested in doing those rugby things again. So today at 1 o'clock, which is just a few hours out, it's going to be a great day of rugby action. He's got a lot of awards to hand out. I imagine there'll be a boat race or two or more, and a lot of those rugby shenanigans that make rugby the truest camaraderie of all sports. I can't wait. I'm excited. I'm stoked, and it should be a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see the guys. It's been great getting to know some of the younger fellas, and a couple of the older guys that aren't quite my age have been coming out as well. So it's nice to see some old familiar faces, and just having a great time with the ball, and just doing our thing, and taking part in those. Taking part in that rugby atmosphere has been great for me, and I really appreciate it, being able to have it. It's one of those silver linings out of COVID. It's kind of got me back out there a little bit more, so I really appreciate it. Gray area. I think we're avoiding this week. It's for me. I'm just going to talk about the last one, which was a great hit. We ran that the Best Rugby Canada Beer Name contest, and I saw over in Wales. Wales is putting together some Welsh rugby. The Welsh Rugby Union is putting together some beer names to try and generate some revenue. And I thought, why doesn't Rugby Canada do this? So we threw out a bunch of names, and I opened it up to a bunch of to all the listeners, and we had, I don't know, 40 names or 30 different rugby names to start, and we whittled it down day upon day upon day until we came to the finals. And first off, before we get to that, I want to thank to all those who offer names, because there's some very creative ones. I really enjoyed it, and I want to really thank everybody who voted, because there were some good participation numbers, which was awesome. And what that does is just generates more interest for these girls and guys that play Canadian rugby. But in the end, it was a very narrow victory. The Al Sharon Cask and Kettle beat out Jamie Cudmore Cream Ale in the finals by only a couple of votes. I had to recount. It was like, Biden, Trump. There's mail-ins at the last minute, and we had to bring in the computer systems to do the tallies. And it was no, but it was a close vote. It was Instagram. I think they were tied, and on Twitter, I think Sharon came ahead by just less than 5 votes. It was really close, and Sharon actually made a big comeback because Cudmore was beating him, and then out of the blue, I don't know, Al must have contacted some of his old mates, and bang, he ended up winning. So Al's won a Canadian Ruck toque. You can see I'm sporting one now. I'll be mailing it off soon, and he'll be looking for that in his mail, and we'll enjoy seeing a nice photo of Al wearing his Canadian Ruck toque. This is new. I love this. Break Par Golf here in southern New Brunswick in the Rothesay area. Break Par Golf is here to help you break par, not your wallet. So it's wintertime, it's the off season. Let Break Par regrip your clubs this off season. As I said, serving Rothesay in southern New Brunswick. Find them on Facebook at Break Par Golf Sales, or hit them up on their website, breakpargolfsales.weebly.com. Chris is a great golf expert, and he'd be happy to help you with your fittings. And he's got a few other things, but he's focusing on those regripping during the off season. But take a gander at his website and see what else he offers. Great golf person that can help you with your golf game. And now we're looking at Mackenzie Thomas. All right, so the Canadian Ruck welcomes Mackenzie Thomas. Mackenzie, we're honored to have you here joining us from England. You're laid up a little bit with a knee injury, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but thank you and welcome for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's jump right in here. So you've got an exciting story. So born and grew up in Western Canada. Talk to us about your development in rugby. So high school, U19, U20. I think you played at the University of Alberta, and now you're playing over with the Sharks in Europe. Just talk to us about how you got involved in the game and a bit of your roadway to getting to where you are now.
Yeah, so I started playing rugby when I was 11. And actually, at the time, that was the youngest that you could start playing in Edmonton. So I don't want to date myself and age myself there, but it is great now. You can see kids that are 4 years old passing a rugby ball. So it's exciting for the future for kids being able to do that. But yeah, so at the time, I was 11, and I got into it because of my dad. So my dad was the junior coach at the time. And he was coaching my brother. So my brother started when he was 11 and I was 9. And of course, younger sister, I want to do everything that my brother does, and I want to follow in his footsteps. So he plays rugby. I want to play rugby. Yeah, so I started when I was 11, obviously then did it in junior high, high school. I then tried out for the U19 Alberta team, and I made that, and that was kind of my first, step into some representative rugby and a bit of a higher level. So then I did U23 Alberta, went on to senior women, then ended up making the Wolf Pack as well. And that was before I came across to England to play rugby, where I play in the Premiership now. So it's a big part of my life. I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing.
That's awesome. You make a really cool point about, you start at 11 because that's as early as you could, and now there's 4-year-olds. I grew up playing hockey, and I started skating when I was 2, and most Canadian kids, right? And I started a rookie rugby program with my wife a few years ago, and we're the only one that I know of in New Brunswick that allows kids at the age of 4 to come out and play. And it is so cute watching these little tykes run around with a ball, and you hear stories from the parents like, oh yeah, my little one was sleeping with a rugby ball last night. And it's really interesting. So COVID has really thrown our program, a huge wrench in there, because we haven't offered it in a year now. And, it's a concern moving forward. So that's nice. That's really cool to hear that you're excited about having those little kids join earlier and kind of get that bug.
I think that it's really important, and I think that it will develop Canadian rugby in general, just because if you think about here in England, kids like they are now, kids grew up with rugby balls. So they are 3 years old, they have the mini rugby balls, they're 4, they're running around, and if they're learning all those skills and working on that at such a young age and falling in love with the sport, it's obviously grown into a massive thing here in England. So hopefully, with that, those young kids being able to do it now in Canada, we'll see in however many years' time how it improves the game in Canada. So,
I agree. We're just getting more boots on the ground and more hands on the ball. It can't do anything but help.
Yeah.
So you briefly started there. You're playing over there with the Sharks in England now. So how did that transpire? How did you get that contract? how did you make that move and get on that team?
Yeah, so actually it was after I did play 1 year at the University of Alberta, but I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with myself, and I wasn't, totally buying into university and things like that. So I kind of decided I needed to take a step away, figure out kind of what I wanted to do before dedicating, however many years to a degree and not really being happy afterwards. So there was the lady Jo Hall, who she now coaches Hong Kong women, the national team. She was in Edmonton, and she's an English woman, and she was in Edmonton coaching St. Albert men's team. And I talked to her. I just kind of said, I think England would be an amazing place to go play rugby. It's where the sport was invented. I'd love an opportunity to go. I'd like to play somewhere where, I get played, but also somewhere where I'm going to learn a lot and I'm going to improve as a player. And she suggested the Sharks. So it was like a couple months after I bought a plane ticket and I was flying across with knowing nobody, packed all my stuff, first time I'd been away from home at the age of 21. So yeah, it was a big journey. So I came to the northeast of England, started playing with the Sharks, and then just loved the game, loved the competition, fell in love with the area. So been kind of back and forth for a few years, but I've been in England solely now for the last 3 years.
So what's it like being a foreigner playing rugby in England?
It definitely, I think when I first came across, it was difficult. I kept thinking, well, I'm going across to England and they speak English, so I should have no issues here. But little did I know that the accents change. Like you go 10 miles down the road and they speak completely different. And in the Northeast here, they've got what they call the Geordie accent, and it's a very thick accent. So trying to understand people was just, a bit of a nightmare. And I remember my very first game, it was the week after I had arrived, and I was playing at 12, and the 10 called a move, and I did not understand it, because it was the mix of her running, yelling what we were meant to be doing, and then I was just thinking, I'm not gonna do whatever she wants me to do. And at this time it was Katie McLean, and so she's England captain, and I'm thinking, I'm gonna make a right fool of myself with the England captain, and I'm not gonna. Anyways, thankfully the forwards lost the ball in the line out. So I had
One time you want that to happen.
I know. I went over and I was like, sorry, what was that move? And she had called a loop, and I was like, I wouldn't have given the ball back to her. So I was like, okay, good. Now I know. So it's easier now because I've been here for a long time. But yeah, it definitely, when I came across it was a bit of a shock to the system.
That's a good story. That's a good story. Is the league trying to turn pro, or is it strictly amateur? What's the parameters or thought process there? Do you know?
Yeah, so it's in an interesting place right now. So obviously the Premiership here it's improved like absolute leaps and bounds in the last about 5 years or so. So there are professional players in the league, so professional athletes that don't have any other jobs but to train and play. No club at the moment is fully professional, so all the teams have amateur players as well. But yeah, so the hope is in the next 3 to 5 years really that the league will be professional. Now it's obviously a bit difficult because going through this transition period, you're going to have quite a discrepancy in players depending on how much maybe money the club has, or how much sponsorship you've got, how well known you are, what kind of area you're from. So you definitely can see that in some of the leagues or in some of the clubs and stuff. But it is, for women's rugby, is absolutely amazing. I mean, having a league that is becoming professional for women to play in is, it's the pinnacle. It's what young girls want to see. It's what they want to strive for. So it is very exciting. But yeah, we're kind of in this transition period where we are training like professional athletes, but we have to also have a job.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fair for sure. But that's really cool. So You work full time, you train full time. It's a never ending grind, but you obviously have a lot of passion for the game. What has the league in Europe, in England, what has it done for you as a player?
Um, so I noticed the biggest difference probably maybe after maybe my second season playing in England, and I'd come back home, so I'd play the winter season here in England, and then I'd come back to Edmonton and I would play in the league there. And I noticed, my physicality in the game and my speed and the way I thought about the game was a lot faster, and I was stronger. And I think I had improved massively. So definitely, as far as, whether it was also because I had a lot of rugby throughout the year, so playing back-to-back seasons, you will get better. But the league here, it's one of the best leagues for women's rugby in the world, so it's quite the opportunity to play here. So it definitely has made me a much better player.
So the
Yeah.
competition, the playing on the pitch with the same teammates, the coaching, all that it sounds like it's been really important for your development.
Yeah, so I think, unfortunately, the one thing about Canada is it's so big. So and there's a lot of rugby within Canada, but like I play here with all of the national teams. So I either play against them or I play with them. So learning from these girls, having to hit some of these girls and get hit by some of these girls. When I first came across, I felt like I was being tossed around like a rag doll. But yeah, so I think just having that competition and those girls in that competition, you also see a lot of girls come across that, this year there's girls from Spain, France, obviously there's Ireland, England, Wales, Scotland, so and other Canadians. So the league brings in a lot of international players, so you get to play with them or against them, which is definitely massive for development. So unfortunately in Canada, with it being so big, you can't get all the girls in one league.
Right.
You get that when you play kind of representative stuff, but not so much just in league.
Are there many Canadians over there with you, or against you
So
even?
yeah, so none on my team. I think there's a few dotting around, so I think there's probably maybe 6 or 7 of us in the league this year. So I know that there's 3 at Loughborough Lightning, so I think they have the most of us. But yeah.
Okay. Do you take any special pride when you go up against another Canadian? Do you get a little more geared up for that match? Like, is there any more pressure on you?
Um, Maybe a bit of pressure, but it's interesting because Delika is one of the girls that plays she's from Calgary, so we've played against each other for my team at home, the Leprechaun Tigers, and for her at the Hornets. So we've battled it out on Canadian soil, and now we battle it out here. So yeah, I kind of definitely don't want to let her run me down or anything like that. So I suppose I'm a bit more aware of where they are on the pitch.
That's fair. That's fair. So one of the things that struck me about you when I was looking up your stats and seeing where you're playing and stuff, you never cracked Team Canada roster, and that's an unfortunate thing for Team Canada. You left home early, made your way overseas to play. Do you have any regrets looking back at that, or are you content with your decision and you're happy to apply your trade over in England right now?
I definitely think the opportunity to play for your nation is an absolute honor, and I think that it definitely would have been one of my goals. It's hard because I don't think it ever would have happened had I not come to England. I think at the time that I left, I wasn't good enough to get into the team. So I was 21 and I was playing high level, and I was playing representative rugby, but I wasn't breaking into the national squad or kind of being looked at in that light. So I think that now I'm a bit older, a bit wiser, but definitely like my motivation now, my determination, and the willingness to put in the extra work have to do now for this league. Had I had that when I was younger, I think it would have been a different story, but I don't regret coming across to play rugby, because I think that it's made me into the woman that I am, but it's made me into the player that I am. And the opportunities that I've had have been absolutely remarkable. So it's a shame that, let's say I didn't develop a bit earlier to be able to break into the squad, but my rugby journey has been outstanding. So I can't really complain about that.
It's an amazing attitude to have. I love hearing that. Love that. All right. Great Western Canadian girl. Talk to us about your thoughts on a couple of things. Talk to us about your thoughts on multi-sport athletes. And in my mind, and this is where I banter a little bit with some of the people that I work with that are high performance coaches. To me, an athlete is somebody who plays more than one sport. You don't have to have the multi in there. If you just play basketball, you're a basketball player. It doesn't make you an athlete. That's my thought process. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I guess I'd probably agree with you. I never really thought about it quite in that manner, but growing up, it was, we played. I just remember our home schedule. It was like we barely had family dinner, because if somebody was off taking my brother to something, I was being taken somewhere else. My dad was still doing something. So, my mom was playing soccer. So it was always like we were just in the car constantly going from one sport to the next. So yeah, I grew up playing soccer and ringette and rugby, obviously. So those were kind of my main three. But then right when I got into, junior high, it was volleyball, basketball, badminton. High school, I went for, I was on the swim team. I was doing handball, cross country, like just kind of anything I could to just keep active. And definitely as a kid, it's so important because all those skills are so transferable. So, whatever sport you decide that you absolutely love and you want to, maybe take a bit more serious later on in life, but you've got to kind of test them all to, learn, your hand-eye coordination, timing, things like that, it will make you a better athlete, which will make you better in the sport that you choose to pick.
Yeah, I think you're right. What about, and you can touch on this, you injured your knee, you're waiting on an MRI, but in my mind, World Rugby is trying to lay down some really important rules about injuries and concussions in particular, about injury prevention. In my mind, rugby is leaps and bounds above other sports in how they try and prevent injuries or try and control the outcome after injuries happened. Am I naive in my thinking of that here in New Brunswick? Or, I'm comparing with hockey and football where that mentality is a little bit different. What are your thoughts there? Somebody who's playing, in one of the top leagues in the world over in England.
Yeah, I would agree with you, because I think a lot of what we do now is almost like prehab. So before sessions and things like that, we've got the bands out and it's working on, your ankles, your knees, your shoulders, because that's where a lot of rugby injuries are formed. So it's trying to strengthen those as much as possible before you even start training, so that your body is in as good as position as it can be with a contact sport. And I think probably with World Rugby, they are aware that it's a contact sport, so we need to kind of put those measures in place. And I would agree, with concussions and things, I mean, here we have to have, obviously we've got concussions assessment, so we have to do a learning module and say that we've done it before we're allowed to start the league actually. And then obviously we've got a lot of the scat tests and things that they do and stuff like that. But I do think prevention wise, a lot of the stuff we're doing now is a lot of prehab. It's about it's nearly 25 minutes of activation and mobility just before we even get on the pitch to start running around.
Good though.
So yeah, very important. And as I age, I realize how important.
As you age, what are you, 25?
30 next year. Can't believe it, but yeah.
Still young. I'm 44. You're still young. It's not that big of a deal. 44. All right. So we're going to get to our quick fire section now. So hopefully you get your game face ready, but I do have a question before we start. What's the jersey over your right shoulder?
Oh, that's a Barbarians jersey. It unfortunately is not mine.
Oh, how did you get it?
It isn't. It's not mine. It's my girlfriend's jersey. So
Okay.
she's the proud owner. She played for England. She
Really?
got it. Barbarians. Yeah.
Nice.
So
That's awesome.
I'm top cheerleader.
Is she there? Is she going to make a cameo?
She's hiding downstairs.
All right. All right. So let's get to it here. I've got about 15 to 20 quick fire questions. About half are rugby based, half are kind of your personality based, and answer quickly as you can. But if you stumble a little bit, if you need a few seconds to think about it, that's okay as well. You ready?
Yep.
All right. Best team you've ever faced?
It's got to be Saracens here in this league, which actually my team is playing this weekend, and unfortunately I'm not there.
You'll be the biggest cheerleader there, though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Who's the best player you ever faced?
Probably Maggie Alfonsi.
Okay. Toughest player you ever faced, and when I say this one, I mean it's a 1v1 and you look up, they have the ball barreling down at you and you wish that they fall and trip before they get to you.
Can I also pick Maggie Alfonsi for this
Yes,
one?
you can.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was actually a similar situation where my very first season with Sharks, there had just been a big thing about how she was like rugby woman of the year, and I was coming in absolutely terrified, and she was barreling down at me, and I was just thinking I should just let her, I think I should just let her get past me. I was like, this isn't going to end well for me. Thank goodness my 7 came off and just swiped her from the side, because I think she looked at me and was like, I'm going to run right over this little girl. So yeah, my 7 came and saved my life there. So.
That's the beauty of rugby. You got 14 other people out there to help you, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. What's the best match you were ever a part of?
2017 provincial final, Leprechaun Tigers versus the Hornets.
How'd that turn out?
We won by 2 points.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. What's your favorite rugby tradition?
Probably right now it's singing the Mowden song, coming back after a long bus journey. Yeah, there's a song that we sing when we're near the club. All the girls get involved, and it's usually, our bus journeys are about 8 hours long, so it's a long day. So it's nice because you're almost home, and it's a good tradition.
So what's your rugby nickname?
Kenny.
It's a simple one.
It was because when I first came across to England, nobody could remember that my name was Mackenzie. And it was actually Rue who she'd call me Michaela, or anything that started with an M that wasn't my name. This awesome. It was well into the season. So then finally she goes, you know what, Mackenzie just doesn't work for me. I'm going to have to call you something else. So she called me Kenny, and 8 years later, that is the only thing I get called here in England.
Stays. Yeah, when I was doing my research on you, it kept coming up with Kenny Thomas. I'm like, I'm not sure if this is the same person.
Yeah,
but I figured
it is me. Yeah, they put it on all of the team sheets and everything, and there has been confusion because then people think there's a Mackenzie and a Kenny, and I'm like, no, one and the same. It's just me.
All right, who's the best team you've ever played with?
It's definitely the Sharks. Yeah.
Any
year?
Any season stick out? Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed dramatically. Definitely, I mean, last season was the best we had done in the Premiership since I've been involved. So maybe last season's Sharks.
Okay, good. Who's the player that you love to smash?
Ooh.
It could be just a positional player, but is there somebody in particular like you like to key up on and just drive them that little bit extra hard? It looks like there's a few thoughts in your head right now.
Well, I'm trying to think of actual people, but I'm kind of thinking, like anybody that's bigger and stronger than me that doesn't expect to be put on their backside is kind of like always a good feeling. But
I think that's good.
I can't think of a people specifically.
Just size in general. That's all right. That works.
Yeah.
Any rugby superstitions?
No, actually.
Oh, Well done. All right. Do you golf?
Poorly.
Okay. Do you camp?
Somewhat, yeah.
Do you shop?
Yes.
Okay. Who would be 3 people that you would take on a weekend shopping trip?
Ooh. My best friend from home, Kim.
Okay. That's 1. 2 more.
Oh.
Could be alive or dead. Could be rugby player. Could be non-rugby player.
Ooh. Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay. I would take Blake Lively. I don't know if she's got high fashion, and I probably couldn't afford anything that she would suggest, but I'd take her anyway. And who else? Maybe. Sorry, I'm going blank with all names.
It is a good thinking question.
Yeah. I'm
Do you
trying to
want to
think.
take
All these people that I can think of wouldn't want to go shopping.
We can circle back to that third person if you want.
Sure.
All right, what's the most used app on your phone?
Oh, WhatsApp.
Fair enough. A lot of rugby players say that, yeah. What's your go-to food?
Any pasta, really.
Okay.
Love pasta.
Chips or cookies?
Chips.
What kind?
Salt and vinegar.
Salt and vinegar, nice. French fries or onion rings?
French fries, definitely.
French fries or poutine? Or have you been away from Canada too long to remember that?
Oh, no. No. Poutine.
Poutine,
Definitely.
good. What's your favorite beer?
Not a big beer drinker. I'm a cider girl.
Okay. What's your favorite cider?
Copperberg.
Where's that?
Strawberry and lime.
Is that from in England?
I think it's Swedish.
Oh.
But it's big. It's quite big here. Yeah, I actually struggle to find it when I'm in Edmonton.
What's a guilty pleasure?
Oh, like reading fantasy books or something.
Okay. When you say fantasy, do you mean like Lord of the Rings, or do you mean like 50 Shades of Grey?
No, like Lord of the Rings.
Okay. What's the best place for a post-match social?
Just in the clubhouse.
Yeah, that's a good one. What series are you binge watching right now?
Black Sails.
Oh, is that any good?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I think I'm just starting season 3.
Okay. What's your favorite movie?
Ooh, anything with Will Smith.
That's good. Who would play you in the Netflix movie of your life?
Oh gosh, I can't remember her name, but she's the bride in Bridesmaids.
Yeah. Okay. She's funny. She's good.
Well, yeah, I'm not that funny, but I'm hoping that then people would think I'm not funny.
Okay. Who would play the leading opposite?
Yeah, it would be. What's her name? I'll go Emma Stone.
Okay, that's a nice one. And last one. What would the movie be called?
Oh, geez. I'm not creative on the spot.
See, I think you're funny. I think that's a perfect fit for you. Yeah, there's a lot of different thoughts there. You're trying really hard.
Honestly, my brain is just like, it is ticking, and it's coming up with like words, but it's nothing that really joins together.
Okay, we don't have to answer that one. Who had the biggest impact on you as a player?
It would definitely be my dad. Obviously, my dad is the reason that I started playing rugby, and he coached the junior team at the time, and he coached me from age 11 till I was 18. So yeah, he was a massive influence in the rugby community for me. And I mean, he's 65 years old and he still plays. So he's got his red shorts on so that he doesn't have to get fully tackled, but he still plays in the old boys league. So yeah, he's quite the inspiration.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing that. How important is team bonding or camaraderie at your level of rugby? And I heard a little bit about it. You're singing your song on the way home after an 8-hour bus ride. What is that bonding and camaraderie experience like for you and your teammates on those road trips? And how important is it for your team to be successful when you share common bonds together?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see it like in the sport at all levels. I think the rugby community, um, it's kind of it's something quite different. Like you don't see the rugby community like you would see, say, when I played ringette and I played soccer. There's no community like there is in rugby. I mean, I was able to come across the world and have friends, like that. I come into a club with 30 other women, and you can find people who you all share this passion with. um, so yeah, I mean, it's the trust that you build together, and it is so important on the field and off the field, because you put your body on the line, in most situations. So you just knowing that you have like these 15 other girls, or players on the field that are going to work hard for you, and you're going to work hard for them. And then obviously, yeah, to endure an 8-hour bus journey home. Yeah, it's really important. And I think the closer you can be as a team off the field is only going to strengthen the way that you play on the field.
I love what you said about moving over here and finding a club, and all of a sudden you're part of that family. You hear so many rugby stories of people that even in Canada, like I know a guy that moved here from out west, and he just looked up rugby clubs in online, and bang, he's instantly accepted. Like there's no, you're an outsider in a hockey community, and we're not really sure if we want to accept you here. But if it's rugby, it's almost like, yeah, come on in here, have a beer, you're with us now, right? It's a different atmosphere altogether.
Yeah, it is so true. I think anybody who wants to do any type of traveling or moving anywhere, like if you like rugby, if you play rugby, you get involved with a rugby team wherever you're going, and yeah, you're slotting into a family that will help support and protect you.
Seems like a very more accepting community as opposed to being a tolerant community, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what makes a great team player?
I think probably, when you think about like selflessness, and like willing to work, I guess, because like I said, when you are going to put your body on the line, you're hoping that somebody else is going to do the same. If you're diving for a top tackle, or you're going to hold up a try or something like that, it's just that selflessness and the willing to work, that just kind of, I guess, creating that trust between players, which is what I think I would look for, or would think about in a great player.
Does anybody like that you've played with stand out, like with those characteristics? I
Yeah,
imagine a lot of them do, but
yeah. I think sometimes it's those people that like sometimes they are a little bit underrated, and they're just the workhorses that get around the field. I mean, I would think like Tamara Taylor, who I've played with for a long time, and she is an absolute legend and inspiration here in England. And yeah, like it's just works hard and has that trust and knows that she's going to do whatever she can for the team.
cool. We only have a couple of questions left here. Next one. So think about this. Like you said, you just turned 25. Think about 20 years into the future, and you're having a reunion with your team. What do you want to be remembered for? Like, what do you want those little teammates to be saying about you when you're walking around? What do you want to be remembered for?
Well, I can tell you, I don't want to be remembered for when I got concussed and broke my nose on national television here in England.
Fair.
That was not a good time, and all my work colleagues saw that and were very worried about me. But anyways, probably, I want them to remember me being a great rugby player. But on top of that, I think probably, that they think about the positivity that I've infused in the team, or a bit of my character, and that they enjoyed playing alongside me because of, the things that I bring on the field, but as much as what I bring off the field is I'm, I'm captain this year at Sharks, and I think a big part of my role is just getting to know the girls and having chats with them, making them feel comfortable, because that's what I think I'm good at. Is I think that I'm that people person, and I want to get to know people, and I want people to get to know me. So I think that if in 20 years from now, if everybody's just talking how I was a good loyal friend and also a good rugby player, that would be pretty good.
I think that's really cool. You're Canadian, playing in one of the top leagues in England, and we're almost done our pod, and that's the first mention you've made of I'm captain this year. Like, the humbleness from you it astounds me, because when I read through that, I knew you were a captain, and I'm going to say it in my intro for you, and you're going to hear that, but it just kind of comes up. Well, I'm captain this year, and I want to make sure everybody feels included. Like, that's really amazing. That's really commendable. I love that trait about you. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Talk to us about your role with Sky High Sports. I was trying to do a little bit of digging on that. What is Sky High Sports? What do you do? What's it all about?
So it's a rugby touring company. So you can see how much I love rugby, because I also work in the rugby world. So I've been there for just over a year, really. We build tours for teams. So teams from Canada coming across to England or Spain, or teams from here going across to the States or Canada. We've got a couple teams looking to go to on the Allianz tour next year, but obviously with COVID, it's not an easy industry, because a lot of rugby has been shut down. So not a lot of teams are looking to tour, obviously, because travel is a bit dodgy at the minute as well. So it's a great company, and I'm lucky to work there. We are trying to expand at the minute. So although it was mostly focused around rugby, we're looking at doing some other different tours for different sports as well. So we're not just kind of isolating to the one sport. So I work with a couple guys, and so they're big into cricket and things like that. So we're looking into cricket. We're looking into team building with businesses as well. So kind of like a business has a team just like a sports team, and it's important for them to kind of create those bonds as any sports team would want to do as well on tour. So so I do a lot of the logistics side of it. So I work in the operations. So it's just kind of making sure the tour actually runs smoothly.
Is it all out of England, or are you guys international?
So we all work out of England, but we do have quite a few kind of associates, I guess, in different areas, so that if we do send tours to New Zealand, we've got somebody in New Zealand who will help make the tour run smoothly, just because we can't be quite as hands-on there. So
that's pretty cool. So I coach high school rugby, and we usually every third year, we either go to New York City, which is about a 12-hour drive, or to Boston, which is about an 8-hour drive. But we've always tried to do a tour overseas, but it's sometimes it's challenging to try and make connections. So I've got a connection now. That's awesome.
You too. Anytime you can email me.
Awesome. All right, last one. Any great rugby stories you can share? Now you've kind of shared a couple. You talked about your flanker saving you as that big bruiser was coming down on you. And you talked about not wanting to be remembered for getting concussed on national television with a broken nose. So you've already told 2 stories. You don't have to tell any more, but I get a feeling you've got another one in there.
I will probably expand on the best game of rugby, because it was an absolute highlight. So it was, in 2017, it was the last actual game that I played for the LTs, which is my home team, which I am determined to put on that green jersey again. It just hasn't happened yet. But it was provincial final. During that season, it was against the Hornets, but the Hornets they were beating every team like 40 points all season long. I think the first time we had seen them in the season, they beat us by 70 points. So obviously it got to the final and we were facing them, you know, and we just kind of, the chat beforehand was all just about like, if we give our best game, you never know what's going to happen, but we don't care so much what the scoreline's going to be, as long as we can walk off the field thinking we put everything out there and we did our best. So the feeling in the warm up, like we were so sharp and everything was looking so good, and we felt so strong together. And then we ended up winning 26-24, and I just felt like there was not a dry eye around, because it was one of the most outstanding feelings, just being able to play that well together and knowing it was my last game for a while with the team. It was pretty special.
I like the approach that it's neat that you say that, because that's how I coach. I don't care if we win or lose. I mean, subconsciously you do, but it's the effort that you give for your teammates, not the fans, not for me, the coach, but it's for you and everybody that's on the pitch. And as long as you can walk off the field with your head held high with no regrets, then it's a success. And that's the attitude you took into that game. And lo and behold, you were rewarded with a provincial championship, right? Yeah. That's impressive. I love that. That's really awesome. Well, listen, Mackenzie, really appreciate you taking the time. And I know it's getting late over there in England, and you probably have to go ice your knee at this point or something. But so thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for having me on. It was an absolute pleasure.
Cheers. Have a good night.
Bye.
All right. Thanks very much. Really appreciate Mackenzie taking the time to chat with us. It's hard to line up a time with her. She's over in England playing pro now. She did come into a knee injury, and she freed up a little bit of time, and I think that might help. So hopefully she's on the mend and doing well. Just want to wish you best of luck in the rehab, and hopefully, I mean, I know there's a lockdown in England right now, so maybe that's a silver lining for you. You're not missing any matches, but either way, hope your knee becomes 100% strong, and that you can avoid the COVID and get yourself back playing with your girls soon. Enjoy reading about your success, and wish you nothing but the best. Coming up soon, we have Katie Sadlier, and Katie is the general manager of women's rugby for World Rugby Union. And then we have Harry Jones, standout for Canada's National Sevens program. And we also have Jonathan Kaplan, and Jonathan, when he retired, was the most capped official ever for World Rugby. He's since been passed by Nigel Owens and I think maybe somebody else, but had a really excellent conversation with all three of those, as we did with Mackenzie. So in the end, just want to again thank all the listeners. You've been great. Keep getting more followers and subscribers, and it's not for me personally, it's because you love the content, you love hearing about these rugby players. And as you know, the focus is primarily Canadian. So if you ever want to hear from somebody, just let me know. I'm constantly using my contacts now to reach out, and it's great. So one of the interesting ones we're going to have soon, I hope, is a front row pod featuring Cole Keith, DJ Sears Giroux, Aaron Carpenter, maybe Hubert Bidens, and Ray Barkwell. So we're just trying to get a time lined up for that to happen. That'd be a lot of fun. But if you have any questions for something like the front row pod, send me a message. It'd be awesome. We always have to say thanks to Ben Sound Music for supplying our tunes. It's a free site online where you can download some instrumental tunes. So they give us our rocking intro and outro music. Outgoing. There we go. Yeah. Sorry, Saturday morning. And I'm a teacher, so I'm exhausted. But as always, if you have people you want on, you want to request a topic, you want to request somebody for the future, just send us a message and we'll do what we can. I have on here right now possible break reporting period. I'm not sure. Right now it's reporting period, which is a very busy time for teachers. For the next 3 weeks after I, a massive amount of comments and then proof comments for other people and make sure all my grades are in. So I might be taking a break. So if I don't have a pod out next week, if Katie's isn't out next week, that is why. But I just want to give the listeners a heads up in case that's what happens. I'll do my best to try and get one in. It just depends on my mental health at that time, if there's enough left to go, and make sure that it's a great pod for you. But until next time, which is either this, a week from now or maybe a little bit after. But just remember, this is Jamie. I want you to stay safe. I want you to stay healthy. I want you to stay sane. But most importantly, keep on rucking.